So today we're going to be making Aayla Secura's lightsaber. So you want to start by taking a cardboard tube, measure it out 8.5 inches, and then use a utility knife to cut it off at that point. And then you'll set that aside and measure out another piece that's 1.5 inches and cut that off. And then you'll take a piece of cardstock and roll it around a pencil to form a little tube. The piece of cardstock should be about 3 inches long. Put a little bit of glue on the end to seal the flap. And then take some 2mm craft foam and take your cardboard tube and push it down to get the indentation. You'll do this twice and cut out those two circles. You want to cut to the inside so that they'll be able to fit right in the end of the tube. And then take the cardstock tube you rolled, and you're just going to push that down onto the circles to get that indentation. And you're going to cut those circles out with a pair of scissors. Stick a little bit of glue on the inside and slide those down over the tube. You want to slide those down about 3/4 of an inch. Put a little bit of glue on that one and slide the second one down on top of it. If you have thicker foam, you can also do this, but it's easier to cut thin foam, so I just did 2 pieces instead of 1 thick piece. Put some glue around the outside and slide that inside your tube. Make sure the foam sets just at the edge of the tube. And then you'll slide 2 more on from the other end and slide that into the smaller end of the tube, the smaller tube end. So then take a thin piece of foam, this is still 2mm foam, and wind that around the base of the tube. And then take another piece and wind that around the base of the shorter tube, just like that. And then take a piece of cardstock, trace the bottom of the cardboard tube, and then you want to make marks 1/2 inch all the way around, and then just cut along those following the dots to enlarge the circle. Cut a vertical line in to the center circle and cut out that center circle so that you have a circle that's bigger than your cardstock tube. And you're just going to slip that around there and pull it into itself until it comes up at an angle. You want it to be tight around that cardstock tube you rolled. It'll make kind of an angle. Mark off where the end meets. Take the piece back off. Cut a piece of silver foil and wrap that around the tube in the center. Just like that. And then you're going to cover your little cardstock circles in silver foil as well. Just stick them onto a piece of sticky side of silver foil. You can also use aluminum foil and just glue it on, but I like the silver adhesive foil because it's already sticky. So it saves a little bit of time. So then wrap that back around that tube same way as you did before so that it's tight. And then you're just going to stick that onto itself with the piece of silver foil that's hanging off. Just like that. Slide it up a little bit and put some glue right on top of that tube end, and then slide that angled piece back down so that it stays firmly in place. And then you'll just do the same thing on the other end so that it's angled in both directions. So then take a piece of silver foil and wind that just beyond the piece of black foam, and then take another piece of black foam and cover the end of the tube, leaving a little bit of the silver foil showing. Then take a thin piece of silver foil and put that right at the bottom of that black piece of craft foam. And then take another piece and leave a little bit of black in between. And then take another piece, leaving a little bit of black in between. So that should be the end of your lightsaber now. So cut out a cardstock circle a little bit bigger than the base of the tube. Cover it in silver foil and cut off the excess. You'll do it on both sides, and then you'll cut around that 1/4 of an inch, and then cut in and cut the center out. And then you'll do the same thing you did with the other ones to make an angled piece. So wind that up tight, mark off where it sits, and then glue it into itself there. And then you'll cover that whole piece with some scraps of silver foil they don't bend that well, so you have to use a bunch of different pieces, and then just cut off any excess so that the top side's covered in silver foil. Put some glue around the base and glue that right onto that flat silver circle that you made. Cut off any excess so that all the edges are flush. Put a little bit of glue on the very end of the lightsaber and slide that on with the smaller end down so that it's flat on the end and angled up to it. Then take a piece of silver foil and wind that under the black foam. Then cover a thin piece in some silver foil and cut off the excess. This is a thin piece of black foam, and you're going to wind that right under the plain black foam. And then you'll do a second piece right under that one, leaving a little bit of space in between. Glue on a large piece of black foam to cover the rest of the handle, and then a piece about an inch wide, glue that on, and then cover a piece in silver foil and glue that on the inch wide black piece. So it should be a little bit smaller to leave the black edges showing. Cut 9 thin strips of black foam and cover them in foil, and then you're just going to glue those on one by one, leaving just a little bit of space between each one. Take a piece of black foam, get the indentation of the tube and cut around it, and that should go right on the very end. Glue that on the end, and stick a piece of silver foil on the very end. Take a piece of foam covered in silver foil, about half the size of that, and stick that on the end. Then do the same thing with another piece about half the size of that, and stick that on the end. And then do the same thing with yet another piece, about half the size of that, and stick that on the end. So since these are foam covered pieces, it gives it texture. So take a large piece of foam covered in silver and wind that around the rest of the handle, just like that. And then take a piece of foam and leave a little bit of black showing right in the center. You want a little bit of a black stripe there. And then you're just going to glue that onto the lower end of the lightsaber there. Trace around the very end onto a piece of black foam. Cut out the inner circle, 1/4 of an inch inside, and then make it even smaller, another 1/4 of an inch in. You're going to cut out the circle, leaving it in a little ring. Cover that in silver and glue that onto the very end in the center, just like that. Then take a rectangle of 5mm foam, cover that in silver on all sides except the bottom, since you won't see the bottom, and glue that right into the center of the large piece of silver. Cut a bunch of tiny little strips of red paper and glue those one by one onto that silver rectangle all the way up. Then cut 2 circles out of some black craft foam. This is 5mm craft foam. You'll cover one in silver foil and one in gold foil. The smaller one should be gold. Glue the silver one below the rectangle, then take a piece of blue foil, a tiny little square of blue foil, glue that next to the rectangle, and glue the gold circle a little bit below that. Then take a flat silver bead. I painted one silver to get this color. Glue that in place, and then glue a tiny little red bead right in the center of it, just like that. And then take a black bead, or I covered a yellow bead with some black electrical tape to make it black, however you want to do it. And glue that right onto the bottom. And so then you have your finished Aayla lightsaber. If you got the kit earlier, you may have already seen this one, but if you haven't, then it should be brand new. And I am also working on the rest of the Aayla costume slowly behind the scenes because it's a long one, so there will probably be other videos in between before I get to it, but I will have the entire Aayla costume up at some point here too.